Yeah, good to be back here with you, Bapu, here at Ozil, Richmond, Virginia.
Thank you. Good to be here with you too. Yeah. No. Okay. Good.
Yeah. So, what has been your main focus since coming down here and setting up this new residence in a new place? You've been here for a couple of years now.
Almost.
Yeah, almost a couple of years.
Well, the purpose is the same. It's part of a continuum, and the continuum, interpreted from a certain viewpoint, is not just living the good life, but living what we call a spiritual life. That means that there is a specific function relative to manifesting aspects of the cosmic or spiritual light and sound. The sound relative to music and word, and then there's the light relative to the teachings of wisdom for the people. And these teachings of wisdom have to do with deliberation that is related to what is called enlightenment training. So that continues on a daily basis. And it's what I share with people who have the ears to hear it. Most people may not have the ears to hear it, but I'm happy to speak to them about it. See?
And musically, there have been a couple dates and recording sessions, so you've been able to keep that going in addition to the writings.
Yes. So there is the continued preservation of my musical idea, creative form, if we can call it a creative form, yeah, compositions and blowing, as we like to keep it in the sense of blowing, right? That means releasing and transcending sound, musical ideas, and music altogether in a certain sense, say, music. So it's not quite as much about music as a result as music as a sound process. That includes breathing. It's a breathing process. What a person naturally breathes, not what they think, not what they fear, not what they know as much as what they breathe as a psychic process of, let's say, receiving and transmitting. Very good.
So to get to that point of allowing it to become just breathing, that takes a lot of training, would you say?
A lot of self-release. See, because the only thing that stands in the way of higher creative energy is self-resistance to the process. See, liberated of self, then it's just liberated creativity. See? Well, people are working towards that but don't know it as such. They don't know that what their difficulties are related to their karmic debt. See, themselves bouncing off the walls of their own assumed limitations and so on and so forth. It's simple. So it doesn't seem that the area is, as of now, prepared to handle the kind of music that I need to do. See, it might appear to be a little bit more intense than what people casually relate to as music or jazz, see, which in my terminology I don't call what I do jazz as much as heart fire sound. Yeah. So I ordinarily pick people who have a recognized intensity of musical creativity that warrants association for this cause of manifesting heart fire sound according to the individual.
How would you best describe your process with the music?
Well, I just used the word breathing. It is a form of breathing. It's not a form of thinking. Yeah. Thought, like even the thought of breathing is still a thought, but breathing is other than thought, I'd say. Yeah. And so we are talking about breathing as a process of recognizing a level of music that is deeper than mere thought, as consciousness or subconscious or unconsciousness. Okay. And it is that which the moment seems to manifest for us with regards to the others. So though tunes may be suggested as a reference, it's not about tunes. It's not about music as we are, let's say, conditioned to believe it as such. It has more to do with sound, but what level of sound is the question, because we are many levels of consciousness. We are consciousnesses. So at what level of consciousness can we tolerate being used as a musical channel? So you have a folk drummer, right? And you have a more intense drummer, like a rock drummer. Then you have a more intense drummer than a rock drummer, be like a jazz drummer, perhaps. And then there's, the Elvin Jones level of drumming is more intense. And then beyond that, there's like the trance drumming of somebody like my dear friend Rashid. And there's nothing there to make out or make of. It's just the sound and flow of the drums. It's then the stream of light in drum form as such. And so that added to, let's say, the function of being a leader in the music, playing my music, so to speak, the music I'm given to play, and playing with the people who seem most accommodating relative to this requirement of free but creative music. See, it's not just free, it's given in the moment, so it is present moment sound manifestation. See, breathing the now of the music that you're capable of. See, sometimes that could take a structural form of musical appearance. It could also enter stages of silence where there's maybe more going on than not. So we also have to, as well as be prepared to manifest sound, we have to be able to hear into silence.
You often talk about your mother and her role and how it influenced your music, and I was wondering if you could shed a little bit of light on what that experience was.
Well, as a child, I was her dance partner, and I can remember being twirled around the room because she loved the music. She had to dance. Dancing was her healing. She not only would say, I love to dance often, but I need to dance. see, for physical release and so on. So she's very musical in that way. See, and she was always open to the musicians. I mean, she loved the musicians because they were the musical spirits. They were the ones who would form the bands that she would love to dance to. See. And she had a unique relationship with all the players that came to her house that I would bring there. You know, and it'd be jazz musicians. I would even bring Pharaoh. We may have photos of Pharaoh and my mother together, you know, hanging. You know. And he had a feeling for her, she had a feeling for him. She felt his goodness, and he felt her goodness, right? And he would say, you have a good mother. You know, she's kind to the musicians, she's kind to us. And so that was the way it was for the most part. She felt the responsibility to the musicians and making them feel good in a certain way because I was one of them. And so she was establishing in her own mind that she's taking care of my musicians as I would for the sake of taking care of me. That it was family. Mm-hmm. My father was a musician. He was a drummer. And as Satyanami stated on the web, that I started playing the drums in her mind and in the mind of my family. I started with the pots and pans, as many kids do. I mean, I was just one of the boys, and you know. And but there was something about the pots. That means there was something about the differences, and that's what musicians distinguish for themselves. Oh, this is. Oh, bing, bop, boom, boom. I said, oh, yeah, why should I stop doing that? That's fun, I want to hear that. All right, and so, yeah, no, there was a lot of unhappiness in the family because of alcoholism, and there was heaviness and darkness and misunderstanding because of different levels of reality, right? And so for her, music was a comfort and a refuge. She loved her music. She loved her dancing. And left to her dancing and music, she was in heaven in a certain way. Any other questions about that? Yeah. Now, she was a mother to all the people. And then I take it to the next level. We're all mothers. I mean, she was an example of a mother. We're all mothers. We can mother each other, right? See? And we have to hear, like, you know, let's say my son Rebbe, who's, you know, a wizard of a sort, right, in his own way. You know, he has a message. He has an intelligence. And so it's up to his mom to recognize his intelligence and you know, what is the word, encourage it, even if she's not in agreement with what he does with it. It's up to the mother to encourage. See, that means love the child as part of its need for growth. See, they understand the child, and Rebbe is very complicated. Right? See, he's very complicated, very wise, very strong spirit for what would appear to be a relatively quiet individual. Right? And so it's something to unpack. When you have a child, you have to unpack it. See? Not by resisting it, but by understanding it. See? Entering its reality, which is a native approach. Enter the reality of the child to better know it and not create conflict relative to difference. And ordinarily that's conflict is more ego-generated. That is, it's self-satisfying. It's not what the child needs, it's not what anybody needs. It's what the individual imagines they need. So it's not about other standards. Your child is for you to unravel, unpack, so that it blossoms completely, fully, and people see that I was unpacked properly, and you know, I'm still crazy. I'm still unpacking. unloading. Right, and that's really what it's about, helping the child to unload itself, free itself from its inherited karma of family resistance and neuroses. This is important. See, neuroses. So we have to know as parents, I have a bunch of kids. I don't see them all the time, but I know they're around and I like hearing from them. You know, we have to encourage them. We have to understand them to encourage them properly. What's the difference? So one needs this kind of encouragement, the other needs a different kind of encouragement. Who's in tune enough with that individual to know what they need so that they start to blossom, and then there's peace and love between child and parent. See, and nothing less than that. See, not because they say they love, but because they're being loved to one another. See, there's always a lot of talk about love, right? And it's lip service. We don't need lip service. Kids don't need lip service. They can hear it, but what they need is kindness and gentleness and sweetness. See, healing is what is needed.
We were just discussing how certain areas, be it cities or specific venues that are more conducive to certain types of music. You were saying that certain places have a need for certain types of music, certain styles of music. And you had really good luck back up in New York. I mean, the one venue that I think of, the Falcon in Marlborough, they were very conducive and open to having you come and bring your band and really freely do your thing, you know. Yeah, what do you think that is? What contributes to that?
Well, I think of the psychic need. See, you see, because we often hear people talking about music, but they're not putting it at the level of a psychic need necessarily. See, and so we'd have to ask, well, what is a psychic need? A certain combination of harmonies, a certain rhythmic. That is to say, whatever is establishing the groove or the right feeling is part of the psychic need. See, and some people need freer music. That's part of their psychic need, because they're not able to be free in certain aspects of their life, physically maybe, emotionally, intellectually, psychically, you know, transcendently, and so on. These are different levels of our nature. See, we have to balance. We have to recognize, balance, and purify. That means relieve ourselves of the tension accumulated in those areas. You see. And like I was saying earlier, the issue of racist sort of like sickness is based upon a serious psychic need, see, for profound healing, see, profound healing which can work on the heart of the individual so that they open to other beings, that they can open in terms of loving and appreciating and recognizing other beings for their real value, not their color value. That's superficial. But their heart value, which is deep value. See? So different kinds of music, like even in one of my gigs, I'll play ballads sometimes. Sometimes a straight ahead tune, a bebop tune, sometimes a Latin tune, and then what I love are the free tunes. Right? There's special healing for everyone in the free tunes, but it has to be sometimes offered in a context, say, of, let's say, tension and release relative to the musical agenda, relative to the club's needs, what the owner of the club wants to hear, what his clientele may be open to hearing. And in the case of the Falcon, the relationship we musicians had with the owner was like the beautiful Tony Falco. This man was like a saint. Right? He had the presence of a saint, gentle, quiet, open, appreciative, and yet conscious. Says, hey, I like that piece of music. He was tuned into the psychic level of the music, because we never talked about music. We said, I like that. Yeah. I dig that tune, or I like that feeling, see? And so he was attuned to things of feeling and what was going on in the world at that time. That's a unique individual with great, say, hearted sort of like appreciation for artists in general, and certainly in the case of music, which I know he loved and he needed. And it was John Medeski who introduced me to him. He said, Bapu, this guy is really going to dig your music. He's got that sense of feeling, soulfulness, right? Not racially colored soulfulness, but universally sort of like, let's say, manifest soulfulness. So it's not about the tunes or a certain culture, it's just the way it's played. See? Where it's played from can determine whether it's universally useful in that way. And so we have the karma or the fortune of having people in the field like Tony Falco was, right? A rare jewel of an appreciator of music, or great music, see? And he had all kinds of music on his plate. It wasn't just what I was playing. But his knowledge was so vast, he really appreciated what I was playing, appreciated what most people were playing. So he took it for what it was worth, man. Because he knew everybody needed to play what they had to play. And a lot of people liked various kinds of music. So he was really in tune for our purposes. So it was a very, very good, let's say, friend to have in society. Businessman, he was astute in business, sharp. I don't think any of us, maybe as much as his children did, knew the scope of his generosity and his intelligence in sharing with people what people needed. Say, have some food. If you guys hungry, boom, hey, restaurant is yours. Anything you need, please ask for it. Oh, we remember you being here before, and we know what you ordered before, boom, we got that for you. And so on, that kind of welcoming, fathering. We're talking about a father spirit there. Also, it's mothering. See, fathering and mothering. We need more of that in this world. See, so very good. Yeah.
Bapu, I know that your roots and your ancestors come from Caribbean, related to Caribbean shamanism. And how does that influence your view of how people should get along, or view of how cultures should get along, societies?
That's a useful question. So from a spiritual viewpoint, shamanistic or otherwise, we are souls. We're spirit souls. See? We're not necessarily each other's property as much as we are affinitized to one another. And we are part of the bigger family of life. See? We're not just isolated blips, of let's say 4 or 5 people in a certain kind of family configuration, and that's as much as our limits can let's say embrace. See, we are the world. We are the world. We're the earth. We are the family of human spirit souls, and we are also the universe. But let's take the earth first. See? Let's take society first. When you have the respect of your own spirit, soul, nature, that's what you project to other people. See? It's not about loving yourself, it's knowing your soul. It's more than just loving your ego self or your image self. It's about knowing your value, your worth as a living spiritual force or a heart being. See? When we are talking about enlightenment studies and practices, and what ultimate meditation is about, it's awakening the heart, having the awakening and then having the enlightenment relative to that. Having awakened, you enter enlightenment and you are the same as all beings. You become equal. So not only all beings, but everything and nothing also. There you have it. Beautiful. Yeah.
On the wave of what was just being discussed, how does racism play into that? Or what is the view of racism?
You mean hatred?
Yeah.
Well, hatredism is sickness. It's sickness, it's a disease. It's a disruption and an obstruction in the circuitry of, let's say, head and mind and soul. It's an obstruction to that circuitry, that dynamic stream of enlightened, let's say, blissfulness. And it upsets the flow of blissfulness. So it's unhappiness. It's unhappiness. It's warfare. It's unhappiness. It's conflict. It's unhappiness. It's division. It's unhappiness. It's ignorance. It's unhappiness. It's prejudice. So it is unhappiness. It's the starting point. That's what needs to be recognized properly before you get on the spiritual path. A lot of these so-called people say they're religious. They believe in the story of Jesus. Who knows Jesus? Did he promote racism? Did he say hate your neighbors? Or did he not say, love your neighbors as thyself? Love others as I love you. It's not racism. It's universal heart openness, seems to be. Say, for the natives of, let's say, true heart feeling. See, we are heart beings, not just colored right? Symbols of imaginary bias, see, and sickness. You can't see beyond the skin. What is that, if not blindness? See? And let's say it is sadness. It's unhappiness. See? It's ignorance of a very high order, because you're ignoring races of beings based upon their appearance. Like my clothes, my hair, my stash, my eyeballs. That's it? Is that who I be? My eyeballs? No, there's no intelligence, see, that is perceiving the truth of humanity as more than an appearance, see, but more of the life stream of the universe showing up in human, animal, and critter form of infinite life itself. Each endowed, with life, presence, right? And life function, right? Interactive with the earth according to their level of functioning. As a bug, as an animal, as a human, or an angelic being, which is better. See, best to be an angelic being with no hatred or sickness in your system of feeling, your system of knowing, or your system of being. I like a statement I heard once back in the day from President Jimmy Carter when he was speaking of music. He said, American jazz is American classical music. Boom. It's the most complex discipline, if we can say there's a musical discipline required or involved in this. And so he had the intelligence as a scientist, as well as an intellectual and academic, a scholar and teacher, so whatever, to see how the American nation was expressing its complexity and its diversity, perhaps, and its simplicity, see, as functioning, but advancing, progressing human beings. So jazz has gone beyond classical music, but it's its own level of it because it's made of the same kind of, let's say, intelligence, say, creative intelligence, building architecture. But it doesn't have to be German, particularly. Right? It's like Americans are not necessarily Germans, but together they form an amalgamation of all the musics of the world. So jazz is vast, and it's classical music. Yeah? It's a discipline, see? And a lifestyle, see? And requires genius, most importantly. See? And so what he said was representative of his resonance and experience with America as the great, see, the creative, see, the generous, see, the humble, even nativism, see, the wise America, see. The land of liberty and justice for all. Whew. Potentially. Absolutely. And at least the conversation here is, of that anyway, is welcome. Except at the lowest levels of human consciousness, where even the topic of liberty and justice is a threat. See, in the same manner, race, right, or color is a threat to some people. See, and then that would be at the level of face. Right? The level of face is a threat to those who can't see beyond the face, obviously. So they're not of the highest intelligence that we can say corresponds to the brilliance, potential of what America is about as an advancing nation as it moves closer and closer to conquering the solar system. So you need a higher or a different kind of intelligence to access the neutral aspects and the impersonal aspects of the scientific mind. You have to be a little bit beyond, considerably beyond social prejudice. Because if you run into an alien, good grief, you thought your neighbors would be it. Your neighbors look strange to you. Hello. Think again. Get ready. That's Americans. Americans. It seems we are on the path to recognizing and realizing the imagery of Lady Liberty, and the torch that is being held for the illumination path of life towards the liberation from self, and other as difference. Very important image and symbology, message as such. So we are here to realize oneness with reality, beyond self as other, beyond other as self, altogether. No self, no other. Just reality. Isness without violence, arrogance, selfishness, and stupidity, but rather majesty, upliftment, awakenment, and ultimate liberation from time, space, energy, matter, self-thought, image, mind, body, and world. Shoo.
Phew.
Democracy is the key to equality, spiritually speaking, on the way to the kingdom of transcending body, earth, and mind, towards enlightenment, fulfillment, through radical liberation of all karma. So be it. Shoo.